name is Clark. I also call myself Mahogany Writes as well. It's a name I came up with when I was actually a little bit like 2 years ago, and I first started putting my writing out there on like social media and things like that. Um, I've I am 21 years old. I am in the Army as well. I'm stationed in North Carolina, Fort Bragg. I wrote my first book when I was 19 years old and released it actually about 2 weeks later. So it didn't take me that long to release my very first book. So both of the names of my books are because I had published another one too when I deployed. The first one is Self Love, and then my second one is Cup of Family Tea. I self-published through Amazon, so that's how I ended up publishing my books. I typed them up myself, and I had them edited by a publishing. Well, they publish authors, but they also helped me self-publish, and they edited my book and did my cover for me. So they're actually local, and they're here in my town, so I can go ahead and talk to them and reach them if I need to. So that is how I ended up self-publishing through Amazon. Um, I just want to thank Zyla, of course. I think that's how I say it. That's how you say your name, right?
Xylia, that's okay.
Aaliyah, sorry. Of course, for doing this. That is very great of her because I actually seen her start talking about this on Instagram, which I met her through, and that's how we connected. And ever since then, she's actually the first person I wrote for a website for. So I thought that was very cool too. Great opportunity. The question that I chose from the line of questions that was sent was the one that did you always want to be a writer? And, how did you get started in writing? Actually, I did not always want to be a writer. It came along when I just used it as like a therapeutic tool to kind of keep me going in life when I was going through a whole lot at home, and I would just write to kind of release or speak, kind of have a voice when I didn't have a voice, a physical voice for myself, really, growing up. So writing just became something that I would use to get stress off or, just to help mentally, what I had going on. I first started writing them and then I would take them and throw them away. I wouldn't necessarily keep them, but, you know, after a while, I decided to like start posting them on social media. So it would just be like, the poetry quotes that we would first start doing when you just first start getting out there and you're pretty shy, pretty camera shy. So you don't do videos or anything like that yet. And then eventually I started doing poetry videos. And after that, that's when I decided writing would be my purpose in life because it was something that I was doing regardless of what was going on around me, no matter what. And that is actually how my first book came about when I was 19 years old, trying to figure out my purpose because I knew I was in the Army, but I didn't know that my purpose or not. So that's how I began writing. That's how I first became an author, and that is how I first decided to take my writings a bit more serious.
Well, you have a few more minutes left. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
Oh, okay. I didn't want to, I didn't want to overdo it.
No.
Yeah, so my writings, I noticed that they actually helped other people or other people can relate to the topics that I was talking about. Most of my writings were relating to like the relationships I had with people. So it could be family, could be friends, it could be just being let down a lot. That's what most of my writings were about, being let down a lot. So like it was more sad than like happy, so people would like see my writings and they'd be like, dang, that's really sad, but that's just how I felt. So I would write about what I was feeling depressed about necessarily, not like because I was happy. But now I do write because, happy or I write to be more positive or to encourage people out there because, I don't want to just make everybody feel like, oh no, everything is bad, but I was just expressing myself. So when I first started putting writings out there though, my dad didn't really like that. So for a while I didn't continue to post anymore because he had an issue with it and I was staying in his house. So of course I could just keep posting if he didn't approve of them like that. So I was kind of shut down basically. So for a while I stopped, and eventually though I did pick it back up a little bit when I was getting closer to being out of the house, and then back after of course I finished training basic AIT and things like that. So I continued to keep on writing, keep on posting poetry videos, and you know, just getting my writings out there. I set out for my writings to change people's lives, for them to just take what I went through and do better, or at least know that they're not alone and they know that somebody else went through the same things. And I actually have done that.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm always interested in understanding how authors became motivated and what actually drove them to follow their dreams. There's a quote that I often use with some of my clients, and it kind of motivates them, and that is that there are 80% of people in the world that want to write a book, but only 5% actually do it. And so we are in that 5%, and we should be very proud of our accomplishments. And that was another reason why I wanted to make sure that our stories were heard. So at this time, we have Chantel Fitzgerald that's going to now speak. So thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. I'm Chantel Fitzgerald. And the title of my book, I don't have it with me. There's actually a book and a journal, and they have the same name. It's Clouds and Wind Without Rain, and I self-published them both on lulu.com. Okay. And I guess the thing that I wanted to discuss is what was the biggest obstacle for me to overcome while writing the book. And I think that the biggest obstacle would be my own kind of fear of how other people would receive my book. What I wrote about in my book is a relationship and a time period in my life that was really, not to sound overly dramatic, but it was really traumatic for me. I was in a really unhealthy relationship, and I shared a lot of detail about that relationship in my book. So, a lot of things that people didn't know about me. So I was a little afraid that once I put this in the paper and I put it out there, I was afraid of what other people, how they would perceive me, how they would, I guess, question me in regard to what happened. But I felt like it was something that I needed to write, not only for myself, but for other people too. I'm a therapist, and I came across other people in my work who had experienced very similar, and I'm working with someone who is pretty much going through the same thing that I went through. So I knew that it was something that was important to share. And I feel like, especially from the perspective of someone who works in therapy, a lot of people consider therapists or think that therapists have it all together, and that's unfortunately not necessarily true. We experience the same things that everyone else does, and we struggle just like everyone else does. So I felt like it was that needed to be shared. And I felt for myself too, and for my daughters. I have all daughters, so I feel like it's something that I just felt that it needed to be shared. But it was really difficult for me to really put it into on paper. And then once I published it and I told people I published it, I was like, ooh, what's going to happen now? What are people going to say? What are they going to think? And even though it's been out there for maybe a month or so, and I still kind of have that kind of trepidation of, you know, people find out that I wrote it and that they see it, it's going to be like, ooh, well, who are you? Or my biggest obstacle, like I said, is just me not allowing what other people may say to keep me from doing it. So I guess that's kind of it. I'm not really much of a talker.
That's okay. Thank you for sharing that. If there was one thing that you like, one piece of advice that you can give people who are aspiring to be an author, what would you tell them?
Ooh. I would tell them that just if it's something that has been on them to do, if it's really been something that, you know, sometimes when it's really meant for you to do something, you'll continue to get confirmation that it's something that you should do. Just do it. Because if not, it's going to chase you for the rest of your life. But it's definitely do it. Don't worry about what others are going to think. Just do it, because the people who were meant to receive the message that you have are going to get, and they're going to appreciate it. So
That is very true. Thank you. And that's so encouraging. And I know that there are a lot of people out there that do want to do it, and they have so many reservations. And sometimes just hearing, like you said, a confirmation from others that anything that you really desire, you can do it as long as you put that work into it. It's just something that's very encouraging. So thank you so much. At this time, we're going to have Haley Moon to come on now and speak about her publication.
Hi, my name is Haley Moon. I am 12 years old. Um, I don't really know where to start, but the first thing that I want to talk about is what inspired me to write a book. So I always knew that I wanted to help people, and regardless of what I was going through and regardless of what I felt, I would always try to help other people without worrying about myself, which was probably one of the worst things that I could have done, but I ended up doing it anyway. And over time, it was getting like more, I can't really explain it, but it was getting harder and harder. That's when I realized that I needed to like cut myself off from like the world for a little bit and just focus on myself, which is what I was doing this summer while we were quarantined. And then out of nowhere, I was like, well, I mean, I do help people in general. Why not write a book so that I can reach people all around the world? And that would save me a lot of time. And that is always something that I wanted to do anyway. So I decided to put two things that I love together, which is writing and helping other people. And right when I was writing the book, it was kind of a struggle for me to talk about some of the personal things that I've did. So it kind of took me some time to be able to be comfortable enough to talk about certain stuff. And I'm glad that I did do it, because now it's starting to get recognition and it's starting to reach more people. So I'm glad that I wrote it. How I developed an interest in writing, I don't know. I know it sounds kind of weird, but I really like my handwriting and the way that I write. And at first I was going to write like a handwritten book. And then I realized that that was kind of a stupid decision because, you know, we're quarantined. And when I actually really got into writing was in the 4th grade when my teacher had got on my entire class because the class was acting up and nobody was listening to her and it was just a big mess. So out of nowhere, she sat all of us down and she had this long talk with us, talking about how we're not going to make it anywhere in life if we keep acting like nothing matters. So then she started talking about this other girl that was around our age, and she started talking about how she had written a book and she was traveling, talking to people about her book, doing like book signings. And I was like, hey, I want that. But I didn't know exactly what to write about. So since I didn't know what to write about, I kind of just wrote whatever I could think of. And I wasn't actually going to publish it because I didn't really like it. I guess it was just something to do. But I had just gone into it this summer because, like I said, because of quarantine, and I like helping people. The biggest obstacle for me was probably myself. Like, I would always create unnecessary stuff in my mind and overthink every little thing. I would be like, well, what happens if I say this and then they think this? What happens if I do this and they do this? And I was always thinking, what if, what if, what if, what if? I would always like live in the future rather than the present. And that's still something that I need to work on today, but I'm getting better at it now. But one of like the most specific things that I had an issue with of thinking what if was in talking about like the mental state part of my book, and like talking about how I was bullied and the issues that went down with that. And that kind of made me uncomfortable because I was wondering, well, what happens if she sees this? What happens if they see this? What happens if they find me? Like, I would always just worry about every single thing. So that was the biggest issue for me. But I ended up publishing it in the end. My dad and I self-published it through Amazon. And it was pretty difficult to publish it. Because there's so many writing mistakes, but we eventually got it right.
So Haley, I don't want us to miss, what is the title of your book?
The Rules of a Big Boss. This is what it looks like. This is the back.
Okay, thank you for sharing. All right, so at this time we're going to have Katrina McCain come to us and bring us some gems.
Good morning, you guys.
Good morning.
I am Katrina, and I go on social media by Poet Katrina McCain. I am the author of Because She Decided to Love. It is a collection of poetry. The underlying theme in my book is love. I explore every relationship in love. Every poem is loosely based on an experience I have gone through in my life or something that I am still going through. I started writing when I was 12 years old, and I started writing for an assignment in my English class. And this teacher it was an honors English class, and she was one of those teachers that were not impressed by anything. And she asked me to stay after school, after class that day. And she was just giving me great raves about my book. And she was like, you are really a great writer. And I was like, no, I'm good at math. I'm not good in writing. And I just kept exploring writing. You know, I wrote poems for a while and stopped writing when I was probably early 20s, didn't think about poetry for a while, and started back writing again in my late 30s. My poetry book has been released since November of last year. It took me roughly 2 years to get it done because I had no intentions of writing a book. One of my poems that I wrote that's included in the book, I got copyrighted. I started sharing with people. Everybody was like, that poem is really good. I was like, well, let me get the poem copyrighted. Publishing company reached out to me and said, this poem is really good. We would really like to publish you. Think about it. Just let us know. At the time, I only had 3 or 4 poems that were completed, had a bunch of uncompleted poems, scribbles everywhere. So I just thought about it, prayed about it, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna really look into writing a poetry book. So the journey started, and it was amazing. Once I got to a point where I thought I was done, I found a publishing company in my state. Phenomenal team. She helped me from beginning to end. She helped me with the book cover, and I had ideas of how I wanted everything to be done. I was very specific about how I wanted the book cover. I was specific about a lot of stuff, and this publishing company caught my vision, and I couldn't have been more pleased with how the book turned out. I would say I never had an interest in writing. That's the question that I will answer. But because I started getting such good reviews about my writing, and I could write easily, like that wasn't anything that I struggled with, I started writing poetry. I can write short stories, but poetry is where my heart is. I just love the way poetry flows. I love the way it has like this invisible beat. If you get it right, it just flows smoothly. So poetry is just where I stay. That's my lane. My biggest obstacle probably was when the book was completed and it was time to hand everything over to my publisher, was the point that I froze. I didn't want to share everything with everybody because it's some really raw emotions in this book. When I sat back down and read the poems later, I got caught up in the emotions that I was caught up in when I wrote the poem. And I could literally cry on some of the poems the same way I did when I wrote the poems. So I didn't want to release that rawness to the world. And that was really hard. My publishing company kept saying, hey, Katrina, you got to get us this material by whatever deadline it was. And I was like, okay, I'll get it to you, no problem. Then she'll send me a reminder email, hey, Katrina, we're waiting on your stuff. And I was like, I know. And I remember being at work when I sent the email with my manuscript. And I walked into one of my coworkers' office and I was like, I think I just made a mistake. And she was like, what are you talking about? I said, I just sent all of my emotions, all of my rawness, everything. I'm exposed to somebody that I just met a couple of weeks ago. So that was my biggest obstacle, just like letting it go. I have been getting great reviews. The book has been selling well. And I've met really great people in this journey. And I don't know if I have more time, so I think I'm going to stop talking now.
No, thank you so much. I mean, like I said, I just love to hear the inspirations that bring us to our vulnerability. And you're right, just putting yourself out there, not only your emotions, but your writing style and just,
Yes.
who you are as a human. It does make us vulnerable. And it's important for others to know that, yes, you're going to feel that way also. And it's okay.
Yes.
It's okay. So thanks again for
Absolutely.
joining us. And
Thank
now I'm
you.
going to have Miss Freddie Woods Wilson to speak to us. Don't forget to unmute your mic. There you go.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Freddie Woods Wilson. I have written 3 books, and I just I'm going to start from my starting place. I didn't want to write. I didn't want to write, but I lost a job at 57 years old, and I had been in this job for a long time. So when I lost this job at 57, I tell everyone it was like, it broke me. I'm like, where am I going to look for a job at 57 years old? And I had just taken this position. I had just taken this position at another school. So my thing was, after 3 months, I got terminated from the position. So my thing was on that part was, how did you all give me this job and just to take it back when there really wasn't a reason? I didn't get written up. I didn't get called in the office, But I was complaining. I went and complained about a teacher that was not respecting me as a teacher in the room. So the position was that I had applied for, they wouldn't give it to me because she wanted me to stay with her. So that broke me. So I was like, I am a Christian fiction. I am a Christian nonfiction writer. So everything that comes to my head, you know, I'm writing it out. But before I was doing that, you know, it was just something that I didn't want to do. But the thing was that this job that broke me, God had spoke to me in my ear and said, do not take the job. But I'm talking to God like I'm talking to you all. I'm like, but God, this is a promotion. You know, you give us good things. So when I took that position, just everything just went downhill. But when I was crying out to the Lord about why did they take the job from me, and then I was reading, I remember having 3 or 4 Bibles just around me. Couldn't wait for my husband to get out the door in the morning time so I can read and let God speak to me. And he said, write Habakkuk 2 and 3, write it on a tablet, write. And at that time, my doctor had sent me, my primary care doctor, she was like my therapist. She would say, come in and talk to me anytime. But finally she said, I think I need a therapist, somebody to talk to, because my husband, I'm keeping him awake at night and he got to go to work and he got to be up at 5 because he was in the military. So it was a lot going on, and God starts speaking. So when God starts speaking, I had to do what he say do. Because I knew him, and I knew, and then he brought back to me that he had told me about writing. You know, he just went down the trail about writing before I married my husband, and I've been married to him for 30 years. And God let me know I didn't do it then. I disobeyed. So I told him I will do what he asked me from now on. So, you know, and so I self-published. And at that time, I'm just going to tell y'all ladies, I did not know anything about writing, publishing, marketing, none of that, none. And when God started having me doing what I'm doing, his eyes and hands was all over me, just moving like, it wasn't me. I was an out-of-body experience. And then publisher came up there, Ex Libris, and I'm like, God, what are you telling me? So every night I was typing from my journal what I had written. The Ex Libris publishing company was right in front of me every time I get on there. So I said, God, okay, now what are you telling me? So just like Katrina, I didn't want nobody to see my stuff. I just didn't. I was in so much pain, and I took the question of which was the hardest part to write, or which part took more time. Which took me more time was I did not want to send it. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I'm just writing. I'm writing. So to self-publish, they took it, and when they kept sending it back to me, I said, no. You take it. I don't know anything. I don't know what I'm doing. You take it. God did this to me. They will call me and say, you need to read this. No, I paid you. You do it. I don't know how to do it. I don't know. I don't want it. I'm too emotional, distraught right now. I can't do it. And they took it. And now what I did do was, then I'm still coming around. I did my cover design. I drew it. I colored it with colors, and I mailed it to them in the mail. And I put on there, I'm coming out of my darkness into the sunshine. So I have a sun. And here is my book. This was my starting point right here. A divine connection. Experiencing a moment, keep pushing forward. And that's what I believe, that's what I done. I knew I had to go forward because I could not write this story the way I wanted to write it. They told me I could not name names. I could not I could not name the place. I had to do false stuff when really I turned out to be a nonfiction writer. So that was the hardest thing. So I had to cut everything short in here because I could not, and I was upset about that because I wanted the people to know that you hurt me. And this is how I got it out, because, but that's what it was. It was experiencing a moment, keep pushing forward. And I was able to push forward after I wrote the book and did forgiveness. This is my second book, How is God Working in Your Life Today? It's a workbook journal. And on every page in here, there's a scripture and the question, how is God working in your life today? Because he is always doing something every day.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Okay, Freddie, thank you so much for sharing your stories with us. And just so I want to just make sure I heard the first title. What was it again?
A Divine Connection.
Oh, I did. Okay.
Experiencing a moment.
Okay.
Keep pushing forward. It's
Thank you. Thank you so much. Timolin, I'm not sure if I'm saying your name correctly, and I apologize for that. Langen.
You know what? That's close enough. Very good. First of all, I'm just so happy to be here with you all. Good morning. And I live in Los Angeles, and I think you're East Coast people.
Yes.
And there was some kind of mix up with the timing on this end. So I just want to say I'm so happy to be with you all this morning, and thank you so much. I am definitely going to try to reach out and hear everyone else's story somehow, some way. I'm going to figure it out during technology, or I'm going to call you and ask you to kind of help me connect.
After the session is over, I'm going to post it in the Black Girls Write To Facebook group, so everybody will have access to it. Okay, so I know I chopped up your name, so before you get started, please make sure you say it properly and to give us the name of the title of your book that you're going to discuss with us today.
Okay, my name is Timolin Langen. The title of my book is Mind Over Money, How to Live Like a Millionaire on Any Budget. And that book was born out of a desire to see people prosper. I was always the go-to person for money, you know, in my family. And then even where I work, and I've been on my job for over, well, a few couple decades now. And I have just managed money very well, and people see that and they kind of marvel. And so I decided one day, after just going through a real painful period in my life, that I would share what I've learned. A friend of mine works on a TV show, and she actually wrote her book. And she was trying to get a big name person to contribute to the finance portion of it, because her book is written in several sections. One is about finance, another about another topic. And so I contributed to that portion of her book. And it's so funny too, because she was working with a major publisher, and they were very particular about whose information was published and who's not. So I made the grade, and I was talking to another friend of mine at church, and she said, "You should write your own book." And I like, no, I've got so many things going on. And then because of I'm a college student, I'd already written a book of sorts. And I said to myself, even then, you've written your first book. And then I kind of put that on the back burner. It's a lot of work. What was it like? It was a whole ton of work. And I read something somewhere, it takes a lot of work to it's hard to make your writing easy for other people to read. And I'm a UCLA graduate, and I was sitting in a book club reading a book about another Black author. And even though they loved the story, and I was the only Black person in the room, everybody loved the story, but I could tell they were saying it wasn't well written. And I said to myself, if I'm going to put something out there, it's got to be well written. And that is exactly what it did. But to write that, it takes a lot of work, and it was a struggle. So I feel like I have just given birth this is my baby, and I take her very personally. And basically I wrote about things that that impact our finances. And I looked at it from a different perspective. A lot of times people are just giving you money management tips and money strategies. And I do that in the book as well. But I also talk about what drives our spending. That money is emotional. Money is our feelings act as partners with our spending. So I dive into that a little bit. And then the second thing I talk about in the book is how you treat the emotions, distinguish between what you're feeling and what you actually need at that time. And if you're in an emotional place, then there are some techniques that you need to take for that. If you are in a place where, okay, I'm about to just go spending, okay, let's look at the needs and wants. So we break it down from that perspective. Money is emotional. Money, there are certain things called money matters. And then also talk about money as a tool. How do you get from, I heard this young lady say, from point A to point B in terms of your spending. So I talk about how to use the tool. I took the little money I had living in a 400 square apartment, and I was able to parlay that into 8 properties now. So I talk about how you start right where you are and grow your wealth, grow your money using very little resources. If I'm living in a 400 square foot place, I didn't have a lot of money. And then the fourth component of the book is that we, especially as a people, we don't leave a legacy for our next generation. Everybody keeps starting over. Well, I'm trying to break that mold in my book and say, hey, we need to start handing some things down for at least 2 generations. So I think that's my 5 minutes, and I want to be respectful of the time as I'm already late. But that was the book in a nutshell. I love the book. It came from here. It just came from all my heart, my gut, my soul. And we do a live stream on Mondays where we're talking about various things. And I got to connect with this beautiful lady in the left corner here as a result of that. And I'm here with you this Saturday morning, late but here. Thank you so much for letting me speak.
No, thank you. We are always welcoming, and I know you didn't hear, but this is something that we would like to do once a month. And moving forward after, I hope that everybody will shoot me some emails and let me know what are some possible topics that you all would like to see covered in some of our monthly discussions. Thank you, Terry Williams, for joining us. You are going to have the floor at this time. So come on in and introduce yourself, unmute your mic.
My name is Terry Williams. I am the proud author of Jamarcus's Preschool Day. This book is geared towards parents who have kids that are starting preschool, and also in the event, also parents who have kids that have that connection with them, they just don't want to be in school that day, and they want to just spend that time with their parents. As a former preschool teacher, I would see that all the time when kids would come in and they just didn't want to be, they didn't want to attend school that day. But thank goodness for the teachers. They reassure the kids that the parents will be returning, and we also try to incorporate activities to calm those kids down, to distract them from running behind their parents. So I'm very proud author of that book. My book is you can purchase my book on Amazon. Right now, that's the only place that you can purchase it right now. And what else I wanted to say? What motivated me to write my book is my son. The name of the book is Jamarcus, so that's my son's middle name. And he inspired me to write that book and also just working with kids in general inspired me to write that book because I wanted something for the parents of new kids that are entering the preschool age. And I also believe that kids are all writers. They, when you see kids writing and drawing on paper, that's their story. And as a parent, you might, they can't write it, but they can dictate what they want to say about the story. So I see kids as illustrators and writers. And they just need an encouragement from the teachers and from their parents. I also want to talk about some of the, how do I advertise? I'm not an expert at it, but some of the things I do is I watch other folks advertise their products and get ideas from there. But also some of the things I've done in the past is focus on social media platforms. And a good thing is some of the parents, I'm friends with some of the parents on Facebook, so they would share my posts with their friends. So that's a good way to get your book out there and exposure. Another thing is I give out a free book, so that's another technique to use to get more customers, to get them in to purchase your book. The last thing I did was the last book I gave away was, and the incentives that I used was to give a free book, get my the parents, my signature, and also included, since most of the kids that was on the Facebook page, the parents are on Facebook page, they purchased my book. I put in a paper, like 4 or 5 sheets of paper, and Crayolas and stickers. I just went on and got some stickers from the dollar store and just put it in there related to the boy or the girl, and some of the things that kids enjoy watching on television. So that was one of the incentives that I used. And so for anyone that would like to write a book, the first thing you just need to do is just write your passion, write what you know, because there's always someone out there that may need some assistance or some help, self-help book or whatever. But that's what I did. I started writing on my notebook, writing in my notebook, and then also at times I would write in my phone, write down some notes, and then when I had time, I would just sit down and just kind of put it all together. But the last phase of publishing is being able to see on Amazon your book being alive, like that's the most exciting, super exciting part, and also getting that book, receiving that book, and holding it in your hand, hugging it, embracing it, showing some love, because your hard-earned work, you've done that. And I didn't never think I would be an author. I procrastinated, and here I am. So I feel like if I can do it, anyone can do it. So.
Thank you. I agree. And, I had a meme on Instagram recently that said, the guy was talking about being a critic of books. And the other person responded and said, well, at least you've heard of me, So the whole premise of that was, not everybody's going to love your book. You're going to have people that are going to criticize and they're going to say things, but there's millions of people in this world, and if you don't sell to one person, you're going to sell to someone else. And so, we shouldn't really be discouraged by that, because remember, everybody has their likes and their dislikes,
Yeah.
and they're going to like a genre, and they're going to like types of musics and types of foods. And so we should really take it that way. And, when we are criticized about our books, we have to just make sure, hey, you still bought the book, as long as you got that book in your hand and you read that book, part of my job is done, because I publicized it so well that you wanted to buy it in the first place. So, I just want to encourage people that, you may sometimes get that discouragement from, when you hear people say things that you not necessarily wanted to hear about your book, but just know that there are so many people out there, and what one person likes, another person may not like. So, just
Exactly.
keep that in mind with a grain of salt. So I'm going to go ahead and speak now. I was waiting for one more person, but they did not join in. So at this time, I'm going to be the last person to talk. As I told you in the beginning, my name is Eileen Nolan, and I'm actually the proud author of The Memoirs of an Empress, and this is my book. And my book was actually published by a publishing house, Newman Springs. So my book is available everywhere, even international. I'm very, very blessed by that. I have right now, what I would like to talk about is my upcoming project, because I actually just submitted my second book. I am a memoir writer, so what I do basically is I look at the lived experiences of other people, and I basically create stories about what I see, what I might have experienced, or what I might have learned from other people. So that is what it is. It's basically a collection of memories, and what makes my style of writing unique is that when I'm writing, I include snippets of diary entries from my main character, whose name is Empress. So it keeps people like on their toes, like, oh my God, we're really diving into this woman's life because we're reading what she's writing in her private journals. And so that kind of swoops people in. I've always been a writer, and I've been an educator for 23 years. So I've been working really hard with with just making sure that my writing is up to par. I'm also a PhD candidate. So I've been writing for a very, very long time. And so I'm very blessed to say that as part of that, I'm also able to offer services to other people with regards to editing their books. I have a few clients right now, and it's always very enlightening for me to be able to not only share my journey, but also to help others get to their journey. So right now I'm working, as I said, on my second publication. It's entitled 1991, and all of my books are about the same character. I use the same characters throughout my book because it's the collection of memories of this person, basically. Sorry. And in this book, I'm discussing the experiences this character has as being an African-American woman at a predominantly white institution. So that's what this book is about. And what I've done to pre-market the book, for example, if you go on my Instagram account, you'll see that I have a little video that I've created for my book. So basically, I'm kind of like hyping up the book before it actually gets published, because I want people to kind of want to have a desire to buy the book before it even comes out. So when people ask me what are some things that I'm doing to advertise my book, I would definitely agree with a lot of you all when you said to definitely use the social media platforms, because it does help you to grow. I also am very, I do exercise in the morning. So like, for example, I'll make flyers, and when I'm walking in the morning, I'll just go around and pass them around in the community. And that has really helped my sales, because a lot of people know me in the community. So when they see my name, they are curious, or they may just want to support. So, we don't always have to have, trillions of dollars, although it would be really nice. But there are other ways that we can market our books. And, since I am working on a book that's coming out, I just wanted to share how I am pre-marketing my book before it actually hits the ground. And because people are really engaged by my first book, I was able to kind of use that as, to kind of hook them in as far as wanting to read more. So again, you could always go to my Instagram page, Black Girls Write Too, and I have a lot of examples on there of things that I do as a published author to kind of just get my name out there. And in the last, I want to say 4 months, my following has grown to over 3,000 people have joined me like in the last 4 or 5 months. So, it's making it interesting and making people want to just hook into whatever it is that you have to say. So we did have someone join in, so I'm not going to close the session right now. I just wanted to invite to speak at this time. I'm not really sure. Is this Miss Odette? Okay, so I'm not sure if we have any more participant authors that would like to talk. Can you please unmute your mic and introduce yourself, please, so that I would know? I'm not really sure. Okay, because some people's names were coming out on the screen as different from what I had on the list, so I just wanted to make sure. So thank you for everyone who's here observing. I see that there are some people here that are not necessarily speakers, but I would like to just thank you and to let you know that, as I said earlier in the call, we're going to try to have a network at least meeting once a month. And so I am going to create a calendar of participants, and I'm sorry, not participant, a calendar of possible dates that we can meet. And it seems like Saturday morning would be a good time. It seems like everyone was able to meet here today. So unless we have some kind of major discrepancy with the time, I'm going to keep it on Saturday morning. But what I would like to do is to invite everybody to please start kind of hashing through some of the things that we as published authors could bring to the community, and how we could share our message of what we are actually doing, and how we could kind of break the silence about what Black authors have to share. And so another part of my premise is to make sure that Black stories are heard. So how can we continue to do that? So I just wanted to collectively ask everybody to send me emails or just start thinking about it. I would say in the next week or two, and then I will follow up with the email to just remind you about the dates and possible topics that we could come up with. So at this time, I'm going to end the call. If there's anybody else that has anything that they'd like to say for the good of the group, you can unmute your mic before we end.
How's that, Leah? I think I said it right.
Yes, you did.
Okay, great. This is Diedrich. I'm Haley's dad. So one thing that she didn't address is the question that you just presented about things that they're doing in the community. Haley actually is doing something really big in the global community, and what she did is she took her book and made it into an inspirational clothing line. And as far as making it into an inspirational clothing line, as she said, the book is called The Rules of the Big Boss. In the book, there are 5 rules that are specifically drawn out. Then there are other rules, they're specifically earmarked, but then there are other rules inside the book too. And what she did is she took those rules and put them inside her clothing line. So she sells clothing, she sells accessories like shoes and things of that nature. And the whole premise of it is you can't always have the book with you. You can't always have the rules with you, but you can you can't always have the book with you, but you can wear the book with you in a hoodie, in a t-shirt, in these pants, in a bag, or something to that effect. And she said, that would give her a greater impact that would give her a greater impact on society as a whole. Besides just the book itself, she was actually, you guys might not have caught it, but when she was actually speaking earlier, the shirt that she has on is one of the shirts from her product line, and it's available online. She has an entire e-store set up for it. It's called the Book of Self, www.thebookofselflove.com. So that's one of the things that she's doing to push things forward and to try and help people improve their self-esteem, men, women, and children.
Okay, so that's awesome. If you could in the chat just share with us the website, and anybody else that would like to share their websites, you could put that in the chat, or you could just send it to me and I will make sure that I share that with everybody in the group. It's awesome that we are here, and of course we want to support one another. And thank you for sharing that. I also wanted to invite you all. I have a website, www.blackgirlswrite2, which is the number 2.com. And you all are more than welcome to go on my website. You could see the services that I offer. I also have merchandise that I sell. And I also have free templates and things that I have on my websites, because I traditionally cater to inspiring authors or people that have written works, but they may not necessarily be a writer. So I'm also an editor as well. So I just wanted to put that out there. And again, usually when I send out an email, my website is on the bottom of the email, but I will make sure that I forward that to everyone. So without further ado, I just really, really, really wanted to thank everybody for taking the opportunity and the time out to share this morning with us. And I am looking forward to building a greater network. And again, I just want to say that this is our community, and I want you to please feel free to invite other writers and authors that you may know to join our call so that we can continue to grow and just learn from each other and just be the best authors that we can be in our community. So thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate it. Have a good day and enjoy your weekend. Bye. I'll send out the recording in the Facebook group, so look for it, okay? Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.